Hey you guys, Melissa here and welcome back to my channel. So this is a voiceover while I do some crafting, and this style video is inspired by some of my favorite Korean vlogs. So I want to teach you a little bit about some of the crafts that I do and just let you know that they're really easy and fun. So I'm melting some candle wax, and as you can see I have essential oils, nothing too special. A lot of this I do actually have on hand, but this wax melting kit I did get on Amazon, and I'll link that for you. These containers I did purchase also on Amazon, and the little stickies came with the wax melting kit. So here I am. It's my first time making candles. I've done a lot of cosmetics in my life, you guys, just at home, homemade from scratch, but I've never done candles. So here I am putting the stickies onto the containers, and then I put the wick on. What I did notice though is that if you stick the sticky to the wick first and press firmly, and then press the combination onto the container, that does help it stick a little bit better. But I'm learning, you guys. So here I am sticking them down, you know, just getting them ready to pour as the wax is melting. I used soy wax. There was enough for a few candles that came with the kit, but I did end up getting a big box of it at Michael's. And to be honest, I'm gonna get so many beautiful candles out of that. I'm really excited. But to give away for Christmas, I was excited to do that, and that's what I'm doing at this time. It was during Christmas, and I really wanted to make my presents for my friends and family and loved ones. So I like to do that. I like to make my presents. So as you can see here, I'm pouring the candle wax. I did let it cool a little bit, because if it's too hot, you'll have issues. If it's too cold, you have issues. And I was learning all of this as I went. There is a wick holder that came with the candle set, but I did not use it on one of them because I was learning why the heck you need that. Well, apparently when you pour the hot wax, the wick wants to fall, the little sticky comes apart. I mean, yeah, there's a learning curve. But I was willing to try it out, and I was like totally down, you know, for the challenge. So there I am trying to resurrect the wick that fell and died with the candle holder, but I only had two. So I decided that I was going to get a little crafty, and I'm a problem solver at heart. So I got some painter's tape to hold the wick for the other ones, but this is me testing it. The painter's tape is holding up the wick, and I'm pouring in the melted wax. So I tried the pencil trick. I tried, you know, thumb depressors. I tried a few things. This is what worked for me, and I was really happy I came up with it. So there's the painter's tape, and I just would take something as long as the container, and then I tore it in half. And that's not just to save the tape, to save money or whatever. Strategically, it's because you can see that it makes a rough inside edge, and instead of having it be straight on both sides, having that little bit of roughness actually helped to put the wick inside a little groove to hold it up as I poured. So I was really happy with that little hack for, you know, someone the very first time pouring candles. I was pretty happy with it, and it worked pretty well. But as you can see, I just put the wick inside, and there's my son dancing around. The stockings are still hanging. He's watching Blippi. And so after I poured the wax, I bought these peridot raw gemstones on Amazon from a trusted seller. And I just wanted to put some little surprise peridot crystals into some of the candles. I could have went crazy with it. I have so many, you know, gem chips and herbs and decorated it to hell, but that wasn't really the point. It honestly was a very just intentional thing. I wanted to bless some of the candles with a abundant, you know, gem that will carry into the new year. And I didn't do it with all of them. I did it on some of them, and I let my friends and family pick from the bundle of goodies that I made, so that they got what they were meant to have. So some of them are meant to have the peridot. Now here I am just cutting the wick after they cooled. And sometimes I watch how I move, and I don't know if it's OCD or overthinking, but it's whatever. I'm putting the caps on, and I was really happy with how this came out for my very first candle craft. I did end up making like 10 or 15 of them, but this was my very first pour, and I wanted to record it that, you know, I did it. So I was really happy with how that came out. It's a super simple craft, and I recommend it for anybody, and there's all kinds of containers and stuff, so enjoy. And everybody that got one seemed to like the little candle gift that I gave them. And they really didn't cost much, but they just took a little bit of time and a little bit of love. So next I'm going to make some bath bombs. Believe it or not, most of this I just had in my cupboard because I've been making cosmetics for so long. I just had things laying around, and I said, hey, I'm gonna make some bath bombs. Now you can see these are the ingredients that I'm using today. You can change up your favorite ingredients. SLSA is actually optional, but it's a great way to get bubbles in your bath. Shea butter, this is the first time that I've used that in the concoction, and you do have to melt it. As you can see, I don't even have a microwave in my house, so I am using that candle melt container and a double boiler, well, a makeshift one, just a pot on my stove really, to melt the shea butter. But you know what? It worked great. So I'm just putting the dry ingredients and the wet ingredients separately. So the dry ingredients are going into my standing mixer. Baking soda, SLSA. I'm actually using cornstarch, which I've never used before because I've heard things like, oh, it can cause yeast infections, da da da. Well, I'm just putting a tiny bit. I think it's like half a cup, or no, a quarter or an eighth of a cup of the SLSA, an eighth of the cup of the cornstarch, a teeny tiny bit of cornstarch, just to give it a little bit extra hold. I've been making bath bombs for so long, you guys. I've done so many different recipes. So I've played with this recipe, and I still do. I mean, this, like, as many times as I've made bath bombs and sold them and did all kinds of things and used them, this is a completely new recipe. So I'm always playing with it. There's the SLSA. So that particular ingredient is actually an expensive ingredient. That's why you find cheaper bath bombs do not bubble for you. This is what causes the bubbles in the bubble bath, okay? So there I am taking out the shea butter and melting it down. Again, this is the first time that I did this, but my thought was a little bit of cornstarch and oil that solidifies at room temperature, not just coconut oil, but a new one that's more of a butter, will hopefully help them hold better. And I really ended up liking the formula. If you get, shea butter in your bath, if you get your hair wet or whatever, it's just super moisturizing. And yeah, so I really liked that ingredient. So I'm adding all of my liquids and magical oils. Of course, I have fragrance oils, but I always like to add a little magical, intentional element to the cosmetics that I make. And this particular oil is pre-made from sagegoddess.com. I love getting magical oils from her. I believe she puts good intentions in everything. So I'm wiping off the water from the bottom of the container, and that's very important because as you're making bath bombs, you guys, water is not your friend. I've seen some ingredient or some recipes that say spray water on the top or spray witch hazel. You know what? You don't want any kind of moisture when you're making bath bombs. You just want oil and powder. Trust me. Because even if it's raining outside, which I found out too the hard way several times, and this time it was a little bit of a crapshoot because there was some moisture and fog in the air, and yeah, it'll activate your bath bomb, you guys. Citric acid activates with water, so you have to avoid it at all costs, okay? So I don't know what I'm doing at this point, but I just mixed the rest of my dry ingredients, probably triple checking my recipe because I'm just like that when I cook or when I make anything. I don't know why. I don't trust my memory. I always want to look at it again, and just make sure that, I'm on task. So I've mixed up my dry ingredients. Now I'm going to slowly incorporate my wet ingredients, which is basically just the essential oils, the butter melted down, any kind of liquid, you just start to slowly incorporate. Now, I hadn't made a bath bomb in a couple years, maybe a year, maybe two. Prior to doing this for Christmas, I did have a bunch of that stuff just still laying around, but I just did a very small batch just to get my feet back wet into it and make sure that I felt comfortable, because it can be a little anxiety provoking. You know, you can accidentally activate it, or you can, you know, just do something where it doesn't set up properly. So, you know, I did a smaller batch, but as you can see, I'm not a very patient person, but you have to be patient while you're slowly incorporating the oil into the dry ingredients, okay? So pour, mix, and you want it to be really evenly distributed, okay? That's why I use my mixer, because I've done this manually before, and trust me, your arms are hurting, because just like baking, you have to just like mix the hell out of it and make sure that it is properly taking. So as you can see, when I'm dusting off the mixer, it kind of looks like sand, and that's what you want. You want it to have that moon sand kind of consistency. So that's what you're looking for. So if it does stick together, then you are good to go. And I wanted to test it to make sure before I do it with the mold, in case I have to add any more liquid, anything like that. Recipes that say spray it, you want to just have the right proportions of liquid to dry, to be honest, because if you're spraying it, you're just risking activating that citric acid. So overfill your molds, press them together. Some people leave them in the mold. I guess I like to live a little bit more on the wild side, and I still release the mold. So press it really good and close it, and a little bit of a twist, and it will release, okay? Now here, beginner's luck, okay? I hadn't done it in a really long time, and it released, so I was feeling really confident. That is one of the most nerve-wracking parts. And this method is just a little better for me. I'm not sure, you know, what will work for you if you want to press it into a mold and let it dry. Here I am again, ball number 2. The first half seems to release easily, and the second half is giving me drama. So I tap it a little bit with my finger to help it release from the outside. It's still giving me problems, so I tap it with, you could use a spoon. I'm using a measuring cup and trying to release the edges there, twisting slightly, and it broke. So if this happens for you, you guys, just keep going, because it's part of the process. You're not a failure. Just keep on going. It could be really aggravating, and even with the perfect proportions, sometimes it just doesn't stick. But you know what, just keep going, and I'm sure if it's really none of them are sticking, either your technique is really flawed or your proportions are bad. If you can squeeze it together with your hand, then it should be able to press into the mold. So this one, I'm tapping all around to release the outside. The vibration really does help, and as you can see, it is releasing. If it's pressed properly, then, you know, as long as you're gently handling it, it should not disintegrate. If it's not pressed firmly enough, then it will fall apart in your hands. So you should be able to handle these things, like not squish the hell out of them, but you know, you should be able to move them around without them disintegrating. And there you go, there's ball number 3. So I was feeling pretty good about that. Like I said, it was a small batch, but I was kind of trying to remind myself how to do it all. And there is this last one here. So I was really happy that I was able to press those out. And I did like smaller size balls, and there was just a little bit left, not enough for a full ball. So what did I do? I just pressed half of a mold, and that is perfectly fine too, you guys. So you can multiply this recipe and do a bigger batch if you want, or just do small batches and change up the fragrance with each one. So it's completely up to you. Like I said, I change up my proportions and my recipe all the time. Some people may have their perfect loved recipe. I change it up because I just like to experiment with different recipes. That's why I try so many products and stuff all the time, because I just like formulas. So anyway, there I put it on a Ziploc bag, and there's my bath bombs, and they all ended up being great. So we still are using them. I ended up making like 30. So here I'm cutting some soap base. I did have this just laying around because I'm kind of like that, and I'm just using a little basic steak knife. I know I'm not even using my cutting board. I'm using a paper towel. Why? Just because I knew that I wasn't going to be stabbing into my countertops, and I was on top of the disposable paper towel, just not cutting into everything, because it is fairly soft, but you have to work your knife through it. So as long as you're not, you know, pushing super hard into your countertop, you should be fine. Or you can use your cutting board. I mean, I totally could have, but I didn't. I just made that executive decision. So you have to cut your base into small little, like little dice size pieces. And I don't have a microwave, so I was just gonna melt it on the stovetop. So I went and I used the candle making kit melting pot, and it worked perfectly. So I'm just putting those small little pieces into the pot, and yeah, so just cut them up really small, and that'll help them melt a lot easier. If you're doing this in a microwave, do it in like a Pyrex bowl or something. Not plastic. I don't think plastic is good, but Pyrex bowl. Do the same thing and microwave it for 30 seconds at a time. So 30 seconds, stir it, 30 seconds, stir it. But this method actually I feel like worked a lot easier. So there it is on top of the pot makeshift double boiler there, and it's melting down. As it's melting, I stir it to help along the process, and it's melting beautifully. So this particular base, I have like 4 different soap bases, but this one is nice. It has some aloe, carrot, and I think cucumber. And so it's like a clear, you know, kind of consistency. So I figured I would just add, you know, a little bit of fragrance, a little bit of essential oil, and make it kind of Christmassy. So I did the green again because I knew that'd be kind of a Christmassy color. And cinnamon, because cinnamon always makes me think of the holidays. I don't know what it is about it, but just a little cinnamon always is nice if you're washing your hands, or, you know, just to have decorative. So these molds I just had laying around from other crafts and stuff that I did. So I just am taking that melted soap after I stirred it up really well and slowly pouring it into the molds. These are kind of shallow molds, but that's what I wanted. I wanted kind of small hand soaps that were decorative. Yes, there's so many different layers of soap making. I'm just doing a super basic but cute soap craft. You can get as in-depth and crazy with this craft as you want. I was just making some Christmas presents, and honestly, you saw from earlier, my son is with me during the day. You probably hear him on the background of this voiceover, so I couldn't get too intricate, but I was just happy to do it, you know, and just make something beautiful for my friends and family. So I'm just pouring the soap into the molds, and you know, just trying my best not to overflow. I think that sparrow right there was a little bit of a fail, but I just was like, hey. And then everything that was left over, I put in the bigger star molds. So I have tons of other molds, but I just tried to pick ones that were kind of Christmassy. So I have the paisley little Baroque stuff, and a rose, a sparrow, and stars. So I just filled up the rest of them. You know, honestly, it made a lot more soap than I realized. I don't know how much I was thinking it was gonna make. And then I thought, oh, maybe I'll do different layers for the stars. And then I got a little bit lazy, and I was like, well, I don't know about lazy, but I got a little bit like, okay, gotta wrap this up. I've been at this for a couple hours. My 3-year-old's like, mom, 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 mom. So I figured I'm just gonna pour the rest of this into the stars, call it a day. And then I packaged everything up really cute for Christmas from some boxes that I got from Amazon. So after you're done pouring everything, let it cool. And as you can see, the sparrow's a little over poured, but everything else is kind of just in there. I did different size stars. And then you just pull out your molds. This one's a little paisley Baroque one. just tapping on the back to see if it's dry, and that's all I do. And here you have it. Here's a little soap. And I packaged them in these little containers that are meant for cupcakes, and I put several pieces of the soap in there, and that was a Christmas present for some people. And the kids really liked this one because all the stuff that I made, they helped me wrap it up in the special packages, and they just thought it was so cool that we made all of our presents, and they loved to put their spin on it by packaging them. So the paisley ones released really well. These ones are kind of intricate, so you know, even though it's a simple craft, it looks elaborate because the design is elaborate. Trying to focus there for you so you can see. This one's kind of a Baroque jewelry, which I thought was kind of Christmassy in its way. And then here's that sparrow that I've messed up a little bit, but it still came out really cute. So thank you guys for watching today. I had really a lot of fun crafting. It was nice to get my feet wet in it. I need to make more time for it because I truly do love it. And I'm glad that you watched this with me, and hopefully it inspires you and takes some of that intimidation out of just crafting away when you feel like it.